Hello everyone, my name is Charles Perot, and my final project was a cruise control system. The physical system design of this is a cruise control that increases or decreases speed of the vehicle based on the input from the user. There's more complicated versions of this system, but I chose to just go for the increasing and decreasing of the speed. Various camera and laser sensors are used within the system to monitor the speed, position, and the turning angle of your car. Right here we have a steering angle sensor that essentially just reads how much you're turning your steering wheel and delivers an electrical signal to your computer on board. And we have a wheel bearing sensor that you have a laser that it reads an encoder ring and tells you how fast or slow your tires are moving. Regarding the software and hardware integration, to me, good performance was 8 to 15-second response time with no steady state error and no overshoot. This is because of the quality of life of the user, as well as reducing power for the system. We don't want it responding too fast or too slow, just because we want it to work correctly and feel good for the user to actually use it. And the reason for a no steady state error is we don't want it to have to oscillate at that value, or where it's going either under or over, first of all, for gas consumption, as well as the feeling for the user while they're in the car, and no overshoot, as you don't want to go to 65 miles per hour when you're trying to just hit 60 and that's it. The best way to control this would be a PID controller, as the accuracy and stability of the controller is pretty high, not to mention it won't draw too much power from a battery, and it's a simple system that can drive our data that is gathered from the sensors with a good amount of adaptability to changes in the input of the system. And adaptability is probably one of the biggest things here, as there's going to be a lot of changes within your input of values, as wind speeds can change on a dime, the friction can change on a dime depending on the road that you're on. You have all of these changes, and the car needs to be able to adapt to that. Not even mentioning going up and down hills and everything like that. Now, regarding the implementation of this controller, putting this on a PLC would most likely be the best way to do this, as a PLC can manage and control many systems on board. So you'd be able to connect multiple systems to this PLC. Regarding the system modeling, it can be described by a simple FVD with an input force and a damping force in the negative X direction. Damping force is always in the negative X direction, but the input force could be positive, or it could be negative, as you could be braking. Now, the data needed would be the mass of the car and the value of the damping force. All this can be seen on a MATLAB example website provided in the appendix of this presentation. Now, any assumptions of the damping force would need to be made, just due to, for example, how much wind speed you have, friction of the tires on the road, all that kind of stuff. Right here we can actually see the FBD of the system. Now, regarding the actual math and the testing of this, the best way to do this would be seeing the initial state space model, seeing what the initial state space model gives, and then using manual iterations on KP, KI, and KD values of the PID to tune the controller. And this starts by setting your KI and KD to 0 and manually changing KP to get a desired output. This is just the easiest method, as my system is not technically supposed to oscillate in the first place anyways. And the only nonlinear concern there would be is if I had overtuned the system to where it oscillates to get the desired speed, which would be an awful system in the first place and should not be implemented. Right here we can actually see the original system with no PID. And we can see that this is a step input value of 1, and we can see that this system is definitely not good as is and needs a PID controller to actually complete the system. Now, regarding the KP tuning, we can see from the tuning that 300 would be a desired value to a balance between response time and accuracy of response. We can see from KP values of 100 and 200, there's not enough of a response value. It's just not getting enough height onto that one-step value. KP value of 300 is getting close, while KP4 is getting slightly closer. It also reduces response time, and I want to be able to leave some room for when we're messing with KI values. This system actually doesn't have a KD value, as it's not needed. And you can actually see this here when we're testing KI values. KI10 was just initially used, and we can see that it's getting very close, but the response time is not fast enough, but steady state error is really good, and it seems to be none. And then we see once we hit a KI of 20, the response time actually causes some, or response time is good, but it actually does cause some overshoot. So we reduced it a little bit, and KI 16 seems to be essentially perfect. Good response time, as well as no steady state error, no overshoot. Regarding the actual computing of this, this is the final Simulink model to begin the testing. Consisting of a closed feedback system with a PD for our controller and a state space to represent our system. And that's pretty much it. And we can actually see here that the system response time is really good, with no steady state error, as well as a smooth transition between smaller, or not no steady state error, but essentially none once it actually gets down to speed, and a smooth transition between smaller and larger speed changes, which is really good for the quality of life of the user, as well as decreasing or increasing speed, as we can see from going on a cruise control from 60 to 50 and from 50 to 60. And now regarding the actual system development and the final testing of the system, I personally would want to do real world testing to further tune the PID, and it would be extremely beneficial, as well as releasing to the market after further tuning to see what customers think. The reason for that is because real world data can be very much different from just a Simulink model, and I'm sure that this system would need further tuning to actually represent what a real world is like. Now, some of the concerns would be response time, gas usage, and high speed reaction within the real world. Regarding the high speed reaction time, it's essentially just those higher speeds. How fast is it able to react from changing from 80 to 85 to 90 or anything like that, or even just very large jumps. Does it have a fast enough response times? Are people okay with the response time on that? And what's the gas usage that it's using? Is it actually tuned correctly? Is it overtuned? Is it undertuned? Because if it's overtuned, then it's just going to oscillate, and it's might even just use more gas, and it's undertuned. It's just not going to work correctly. Now, automation is not a concern of my system, as this system is meant to automate something to improve the quality of life of people driving long distances. Actually use a lot of time in cars currently in today's world, and many people, as well as myself, enjoy using it. That is all for my presentation. Thank you very much.